General concepts in science, technology, and society. Historical antecedents in the course of science and technology. Science and technology do play a significant role in our daily lives. It makes challenging and complex things simpler. They make it easier for people to do more with too little effort. Developments in this area are not only the result of people's creativity or a one-time phase of thought. They are often brought about by gradual improvements to earlier works from various periods of time. The driving force behind these continuous changes, the desire to improve people's quality of life. Objectives of the lessons are for you to explain how science and technology have influenced society and the environment and vice versa. And for you to identify the inventions and innovations that have changed the world throughout history. Lastly, for you to discuss advances in science and technology in the Philippines. During the ancient times, people were concerned with transport and navigation, communication and record keeping, mass production, security and protection, health and aesthetics, architecture and engineering. The first form of transport was, of course, Shank's pony, a human foot. However, people eventually learned to use animals for transportation. Donkeys and horses were probably domesticated between 4000 and 3000 BC. The exact date is not known. Approximately 2700 BC, the Egyptians began using wooden ships to trade by sea. Early ships were driven by a long oar, a pole with a flat blade. The first boats were dug out of canoes. People lit a fire on a large log, then they put it out and dug out the burnt wood. The early navigation methods involved observing the landmarks or observing the direction of the sun and the stars. Few ancient sailors ventured into the open sea. Instead, they sailed in sight of the land to navigate. When this was impossible, the ancient sailors watched the constellations to mark their position. Communication and record keeping. During the ancient times, communication and record keeping were also of people's concern. The Sumerian cuneiform was the first written language. The development of the alphabet was the next major development in writing the Old World. The alphabet was derived from Egyptians' hieroglyphs containing 24 signs for 24 Egyptian consonants. About 1700 BC, Semites who knew Egyptian hieroglyphs began to make certain changes to their writing system. They put the letters in a specific sequence and gave them simple names to help with learning and ease of memory. Record keeping was also important because they needed to remember the places they had been to and document the trade they had made with each other. It was also vital to keep records of their history and culture so that they could establish their identities as they tried to relate to other cultures and civilizations. Mass production during the ancient times. Increased size and number of nations connoted increased demand for food and other basic necessities. And this condition also meant that people must be able to produce food at a given time and space as resources became scarcer, as more people struggled to share basic necessities. People therefore needed a form of technology that would enable them to increase food supplies and other survival needs without them traveling more or working harder. Some things that Sumerian did to solve this problem was they built an irrigation and dikes to harvest more products from their crops. Sumerian also invented a seed sowing machine, which could plant seeds more quickly and evenly than sowing by hand. Greek were the ones who built the water mill for food processing. Security and protection during the ancient times. Sumerian built a war wagon. It is a two-man vehicle. One soldier did the driving and the other soldier did the fighting, although the driver sometimes fought as well. Weapons and armors were also important for the discovery of new places or for the establishment of new alliances with other tribes. There was always a risk of conflict at the time when people met others with a different culture and orientation. Conflicts were common, especially when different groups were struggling to control vital resources. Stronger nations tended to invade weaker ones so that they could use much needed resources. As such, the development of weapons for security and protection was considered to be a major achievement. Health during the ancient times. The conservation of life was the primary challenge they faced. Early people may have been successful in exploiting the rich resources that the world could provide, but their survival was a big problem. Different illnesses and diseases, both natural and man-made, hindered the full potential of a human being. In view of this predicament, science and technology have played an important role in the discovery of cures, if not the prevention of diseases. Architecture and engineering during the ancient times. Development in engineering has also led to the introduction of architecture. Others might see architecture as a mere style, but during the ancient time, elaborate architectural designs were signs of technological advancement of a particular civilization. Some of their structures that were built in ancient times still exist today and continually amaze people. In addition, in order to integrate their needs for better transport, to set up structures, to protect them from human attacks and natural disasters, and to build larger and stronger infrastructure, people have ventured into what is now known as the field of engineering. Aesthetic during the ancient times. People were not content to beauty only, their infrastructures and their surroundings. Being able to prolong life with the mass production of food and the advancement of medical technology, as well as to improve the quality of life by making it easier to perform complex and different tasks. Humans later developed technology to improve how they look. They found that people look more visually presentable and attractive by adding some features and decorations to their body. To review, the summary of people concerns during the ancient times are transport and navigation, communication and record keeping, mass production, security and protection, health and aesthetics, architecture and engineering. The following discussions will address the various major technological advancements of ancient times, including some of the achievements of early civilizations such as the Sumerians, Babylonians, Egyptians, Greek, Romans, and Chinese. It will continue to describe the gradual application of knowledge to contemporary times. Sumerian civilization. Samaria is located on the southern tip of ancient Mesopotamia, part of modern Iraq. Sumerian is known for their high level of cooperation with one another and their desire for great things. They are not satisfied with the basic things that life can offer. This desire has pushed them to develop many things related to science and technology. Cuneiform is the first writing system that utilizes word, pictures, triangular symbols, which are carved on clay using wedge instruments, and then left to dry. It was based on pictographs and other symbols used to represent trade goods and livestock on clay tablets. Cuneiform let the Sumerians to communicate and keep records of with great historical value of their everyday life. Another important contribution from the Sumerian is the city of Uruk. It is a great wonder not only because it is considered to be the first city in the world, but also because of the way it was built. There were no building stones in the location of this city, and the lumber was limited, making construction a major challenge. The Sumerians were able to build the city by using only mud or clay from the river, which they mixed with reeds, producing sun-baked bricks, a true engineering feat. Another engineering is the Great Ziggurat of Ur, an architectural feat of the Sumerians. The Great Ziggurat of Ur, also called the Mountain of God, was built in the same way that the city of Uruk was built. Without much building material, the structure was constructed using sun-baked bricks. The ziggurat serves as the sacred place of their god, where only their priests had been allowed to enter. Irrigation and dikes during Sumerian civilization. As the population grew, so did the food demand. The Sumerians were challenged to mass-produce food items, but the environmental elements seemed uncooperative. It was difficult to get water from the rivers, so they could not keep the farmlands. Some groups had scarce water supplies, while others had problems with the floods caused by the river. Sumerians have created dikes and irrigation canals to bring water to farmland and at the same time control the floods of the rivers. This method was considered to be one of the most beneficial engineering works in the world. Through dikes and canals, the Sumerians were able to enjoy year-long farming and harvesting, which increased their food production.